Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. It's Tuesday. It's the Tuesday following football. It's week 2 officially. It's Waiver Wire Day. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it into in-season content time. What a time to be alive. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome in, everyone. Good morning to you, Donald, Bach, Scott, T-Real, Ryan, the Snowman, Colt, Big Country, and Mark. Happy to see you all in the chat this morning. And hey, happy if you're listening as well. Again, guys, you can find the Wake and Take podcast via the link in the description. Go check it out, guys. We've got waiver wire stuff to talk about today. And today's a big day. This is a big Jason day. Huge Jason day. Yesterday was terrible behind the scenes. Terrible day yesterday for this guy. Only so today could be a good day. I wake up this morning. I hit a 6-leg parlay on Sleeper. I hit a 3-leg parlay on Underdog. I tripled my money on DraftKings last night with my Showdown Captain lineup. It was good. It was good. And for any video gamers out there, I got invited to the EA playtest for the new Skate video game. So I'll be shredding it up today as well later. So I'm feeling like good stuff today. And we're here. Like, I get to put in waivers now. Like, I mean, hey, like we are living. So it's good stuff. But before we get into our waivers, I've got some stuff that'll probably, of course, lean some insight into our waivers. I'm going to have 30 players for you guys to pick up. Some of them stashes, some of them players to just pick up because of their performance in week 1. It's going to be a good episode. Before we get into that, we've, of course, got some NFL news to talk about that will affect players that you are looking to pick up. Starting with the big oof of the week. That is the sound of Deshaun Watson's career. Let me play that again. Just an absolute car crash of a career for Deshaun Watson. Starts off hot, and then everything goes on off the field, and then he's never good on the field again. Deshaun Watson yesterday, unfortunately for Deshaun Watson fantasy managers, fortunate for us as humans, does get sued. He had another sexual assault lawsuit come in. Yes, around from the same time, but different circumstances. A woman is claiming he came over on a date and he asked her to massage him, and she wasn't even a masseuse. So I don't know what this dude's problem is with massages. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly. But the fact that even more is coming in is awful news for Deshaun Watson. We actually talked about this last year, but heading into the season. This is an old Wake and Take episode, digging into the deep bag of tricks. We actually did a whole episode on Deshaun Watson's contract and legal situations. And we found out that actually in Deshaun Watson's contract, they are able to void this thing if any more kind of things come to light. And given that this is something new, it's very possible that Deshaun Watson's contract gets voided and he's just completely released and out of the league as a result of this. We'll see how it develops, but it is not great news for Deshaun Watson fantasy managers, not great news for Deshaun Watson. And MV Prof makes a hilarious and probably some hint of true comment. It seems they were holding off to see if he was good or not week 1. It is very likely that the Browns found someone to come forward. A lot of people are scared to come forward for this kind of thing. Understandably so. I mean, who wants to put themselves in the public spotlight as a victim, especially if something as heinous as what Deshaun Watson did to this poor woman? It sucks to have to come out publicly and do those things to make someone have to be accountable for their actions. So, the Browns maybe found someone because they need to get out of this contract. They need to get out of this damn contract. And it's looking like they're going to be able to. It's really looking like they're going to be able to. So we'll talk about it again later in the show. But go ahead and start stashing Jameis Winston, guys. It's not only like we've been saying it all offseason, not because of the legal issues, because we thought Deshaun Watson is just bad. which we knew Deshaun Watson was just bad. I can't believe people were still holding out any hope for this guy. So we were saying just get Jameis Winston because he'll get benched at some point. It was pretty easy to see. But now it's seeming that Jameis Winston may just get the starts due to legal issues concerning around Deshaun Watson. And now he has even more of a reason for his head not to be in the game. I mean, you gave this guy, a serial sexual assaulter, a fully guaranteed contract, a guy whose head clearly isn't right. You gave him all this money. Why would he play? Like, why would he care about how good he is on the football field? He just needs to go play. Like, he doesn't care. His head was never in the game. He gave up, and it was clear on the football field. And now off the field issues playing even more of a big part into it. So Deshaun Watson, even more dust, even more dunzo than before. Now we also have some injury updates, which will help for sure in terms of players to pick up, but of course hurt your lineups, as we had some big ones from this week. First off, Puka Nacua is officially going to be put on IR. Hopefully this is only a 4-week time period, but that's the minimum. With this, he's at least going to miss 4 games. The Rams have a bye in week 6, if I'm remembering correctly, which means they would probably rest him that week too, just to see, or just to kind of make sure that he's able to heal up. So look for Puka Nacua, best case scenario, probably to return week 7. And you're probably wondering, am I paying up for Cooper Kupp? Yes. It's about winning, guys. And we already knew Cooper Kupp was a value this offseason. Now he's less of a value because of this, but it doesn't really matter. He's just a stud and a half. I actually traded DK Metcalf straight up for Cooper Kupp in a league. I'm tired of my DK Metcalf shares. Give me Cooper Kupp until he fades off into the sunset. Anyway, I'm in on buying high on Cooper Kupp. He's going to get 20 more targets next week, 20 more targets the week after that. And stick around as we'll talk about the other Rams receivers as waiver wire pickups. Jordan Love is not going on IR for his MCL sprain, which suggests that he could return at 4 weeks, miss 3 and come back for the 4th week. But it's still also possible that they hold him out a little bit longer. Like it's not very clear, but this is good news for Jordan Love not to land on IR. That means that they are expecting a shorter end of the time frame for his recovery, which was like 3 to 7 weeks or something like that. Given that, it seems that he should be able to get back before 4 weeks or right at that 4th week, or they would have just put him on IR to free up that roster spot. But if they didn't want to free up that roster spot for a reason, it would tend to be that A, they think he'll be able to recover, or they just want less than 100% Jordan Love over Malik Willis. There's 2 ways to look into it, but either way, it seems he'll be back playing sooner rather than later. You don't know who to get, Joanna, Winston or DTR. It's Jameis Winston. It's Jameis Winston. Don't even think about it. Come on, guys. Jake Ferguson. He also MCL sprains out the wazoo, by the way. Jake Ferguson, also an MCL sprain. No update really on his time frame, but and in fact, some people were saying that he still hasn't been ruled out for week 2 even. I doubt he plays. I doubt it. I can't really think of a reason why they'd throw him out there. But, just keep your eye on that as Jake Ferguson has an MCL sprain. And then Rome Odunze, he also picked up a sprained MCL. His was more of a grade 1. This was a very, very minor sprain. He'll probably still miss this week, but it seems that he won't be able to miss. He won't be missing that much time either. Rome Odunze also picked up a knee injury, but did avoid the worst case scenario. So a sigh of relief for Rome Odunze managers. Jordan Addison picked up an ankle injury. No clarifications on what type of ankle injury this is, but Kevin O'Connell did say that he is hopeful that he'll be able to return this week to play. So let's kind of bank on that. But if Jordan Addison is out there, don't really expect him to get a ton of volume because it sounds like he'll at least be less than 100%. Kenneth Walker, he picked up an abdomen injury in the game. No really information as to what it meant. There was no testing or anything like that. Kenneth Walker came after the game and said he feels good. He's fine. The new head coach hasn't said anything really about it either. So hopefully we just got to take Kenneth Walker's word for it that he's fine. And he'll be back out there because, man, did he look good this weekend. And lastly, not sure what this means. In fact, I'm going to put this as the a very low red alert, very, very low alert. Don't really care too much about this given the circumstances here. But Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane both did not practice yesterday and have landed on the Miami Dolphins injury report. Is this a big deal? Probably not. It is a Monday, 1. And then 2, I'm 99% sure the Dolphins are playing against the Bills on Thursday Night Football. So with that being the case, it makes sense that they would be resting their running backs. And yeah, they play Thursday night. So don't really worry too much about the did not practice for these running backs. But do definitely still, as we'll talk about in a little bit, get Jalen Wright on your rosters just in case. Just in case. Not that he'll play this week, but just this was always the argument, right? Is that Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, if either of them goes down, Jalen Wright's going to be huge. So just go ahead and start stashing him just in case, because the injuries have already started to pop up. And that's never really good news, especially for the age that Raheem Mostert is playing at right now. So that's kind of the big injury updates for you guys. That's the update on Deshaun Watson. Let's just go ahead and bounce right into the waiver wire portion of the show. But before we get into that, let's hear a little bit about Dynasty Deluxe.
This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode, where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players, because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
The Dynasty Deluxe package is one of the best deals in the industry. Everything you need to dominate your Dynasty leagues this season, available in the Dynasty Deluxe, as well as the all-in package for plenty more tools that you can use at PlayerProfiler.com. Guys, again, we have made it to the waiver wire portion of the season. We're here. It's great. It's fantastic. And I'm just going to go ahead and preface this. It is difficult to make waiver wire content. It just is. Every single league is different. Okay? So I understand that. You know, I am not gearing this for shallow leagues. Unfortunately, my marker that I looked for this show was available in 50% or more Yahoo leagues. I thought Yahoo would be a good usage for this, given it's a more seasonal format and a bit normie, if you will. So these are players available in 50% or more Yahoo leagues. So there's no Jordan Mason. He's rostered in a bunch of leagues. If Jordan Mason was available on your waiver wire, you're in a shallow league, and you know there's not much help that a waiver wire show is going to give you. You can tell what players to pick up if you're in a shallow league. I will say, just as an aside, Jordan Mason, get him if he's available. But remember, you don't really want handcuffs for the beginning of the season. We pick up and roster all these handcuffs on our team when the injuries start to pile up. So I understand we're all excited about Jordan Mason right now. He looked fantastic last night. But just know that if you pick up Jordan Mason, it's to play him. And then he's probably going to end up clogging your roster the rest of the season, which is fine. It's fine, but there's probably some higher upside out there. There probably is, at least in terms of a season-long view, because Christian McCaffrey will be back at some point. So I would say definitely don't pay too much to get Jordan Mason, just because it's only week 1. Long season ahead of us. We're trying to get ahead. Harry Snowman, I need to be perfect, and who cares about Yahoo? It's free. Yes, I agree. I don't care about Yahoo in the slightest, but it's a very, very good barometer, if you will, on the landscape of waiver wires across fantasy football. 50% availability in Yahoo is going to be like 30% elsewhere, and everything like that. So, yeah, Yahoo is the perfect one to use. In fact, it's perfect. That's even what Theo Grevinger uses, is Yahoo, because it's just such a good barometer of what's going on. So, again, that's my cursor here. We're going all the way down. I mean, I've got players that are 0% rostered on Yahoo that we're going to talk about here, but it's just like I can't sit here and say, you know, go pick up Tyler Lockett. Like, he's probably rostered, you know, so it's just tough. It's very tough to make waiver wire content. So if I say something that he's not available in your league, of course, right? It varies from league to league. Or you're going to say, why would I need to pick up that person? You know, like my league's not that deep. Okay, then you know that. Okay, so I don't want to hear any shit about not my league, bro. It's tough. It's tough. You know how many fucking fantasy football leagues are out there? Anyway, let's get into it. Available in 50% or more of Yahoo leagues, starting from the top, right? Going down to from the person who is most rostered to the person who is least rostered. That's how we're doing this. The most rostered player at 50% rostership exactly that needs to be picked up if he's available is J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins had 10 carries for 135 rush yards, a touchdown, and also found himself with 3 receptions off of 3 targets. So he brought in all his targets as well. Looked explosive. Looked like, 80% J.K. Dobbins. He didn't look like the J.K. Dobbins of old, but this Chargers team is going to run the ball a lot. He looked a lot better than Gus Edwards did. So it's, it's probably going to even go up even further in terms of the opportunity that he's getting. Now, of course, with J.K. Dobbins, we're just waiting for the inevitable injury to happen, but you might as well bet on him. He looked pretty damn good this week. He doesn't have a lot of, I don't know if stamina is the right word, but he did run out of steam. Like all of his breakaway runs, he was very quickly caught up from behind and lost a lot of explosiveness after the line of scrimmage. Anyway, if J.K. Dobbins is available, go ahead and pick him up. Number 2, this is a huge jump, right? Making a huge jump here from 50% ownership on Yahoo to 37% roster ownership on Yahoo. Jaleel McLaughlin needs to be picked up as well. And I know I spent all offseason talking about avoiding this Denver Broncos backfield. It was exactly because of this. Why draft any Broncos running backs when you could just very easily just take the wait and see approach, see what the backfield looks like, and then just trade or pick up whichever one looks to be the most valuable for fantasy. And Jaleel McLaughlin looks to be the most valuable running back on this Denver Broncos team. He had the most touches and had 5 targets, brought in all 5 of them. So 5 receptions in PPR leagues. That's also awesome. He also found himself having 10 carries. And the only reason I'm saying you want Jaleel McLaughlin is because of those pass catching. I mean, the Broncos running backs, again, you don't really want them because they're not going to run a lot, but you can take a chance on the pass catcher. Why not? Especially off the waiver wire, Jaleel McLaughlin available in 63% of leagues on Yahoo. You could get him if he's available. And you'll probably be able to start him in a lot of PPR leagues. Next, also available in 63% of Yahoo leagues is going to be Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis didn't do too much, only 3 receptions off of 3 targets for 62 receiving yards. But that's a really good start. In fact, he had the most receiving yards on the Jaguars. Again, only 3 targets, but bringing in all 3 for 62 yards does show the type of usage that he'll have, the type of routes he'll be running and all that stuff. And this is his first week on the Jaguars, his first week catching passes from Trevor Lawrence. So to see him already have 62 yards in the first week, I mean, that's pretty good. Now, of course, we all know Gabe Davis is boomer bust, but he should definitely be rostered. I mean, the Jaguars throw the ball a ton, and he is a good wide receiver. I understand he's not a great wide receiver, and we've been burned by him, but that's just because we had too high of expectations. He's got a decent enough floor, and he has some ceiling potential as well. So pick up Gabe Davis if he's available. Just get him on your team. You may never start him, but you would if an injury fell his way or if he continues to get usage like this. Next, we've got Brandon Cooks. Kind of same vein. He's probably going to be boom or bust, but he actually even gets more usage and is the true wide receiver 2 in Dallas. Finds himself with 7 targets in this game, is able to bring in 4 of them for 40 yards and a touchdown. They also gave him a carry that he was able to take for 5 yards. So Brandon Cooks rostered in only 33% of Yahoo leagues right now, available in 67% of leagues. If he's out there, you need to get him. And you probably, this is a flex player probably all season as long as he's healthy, especially with Jake Ferguson picking up the MCL sprain. The pass volume needs to go somewhere. So it's probably going to be Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb pretty consolidated, as well as whatever backup tight end and, the other people mixed in. But for the most part, it was CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Jake Ferguson in this game. No Jake Ferguson. I'm sure it'll just start to go to CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. Get Brandon Cooks if he's available. Moving from Cooks to the next player owned the most, and that is Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is only owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues, so if he's available in yours, you got to get him. I will say, you do want to temper expectations. Just because he had such a big week 1 doesn't mean he's going to have a big 2. Again, Mark Andrews was out there for more snaps. Mark Andrews ran more routes. Mark Andrews was just double, triple covered, and also getting up to game speed. He didn't participate at all during the offseason because of a car crash and other injuries. And so it's going to just take some time for Mark Andrews to turn back into Mark Andrews. But in that time, you're going to be able to comfortably start Isaiah Likely. And even when Mark Andrews comes back, even when Mark Andrews is back, being Mandrews, Isaiah Likely is still going to be utilized and leaned on as a pass catcher. It's going to be Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, right? That's just how it's going to be. So this is probably Isaiah Likely's ceiling because I do think that Mark Andrews is going to get good again at some point. So definitely try to acquire Mark Andrews, but you also want to pick up Isaiah Likely. Like Around the First says, he's basically the wide receiver 2 in Baltimore. And that's true. That is true. So get Isaiah Likely. The next player in terms of ownership is Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is owned in 21% of Yahoo leagues. And yes, he was a week 1 healthy scratch, but that doesn't matter. Devon Achane was a week 1 healthy scratch last year. These are rookies. There's a lot of running backs. They just decided to use Jeff Wilson in this game. Whatever. Jalen Wright will be utilized in this Dolphins backfield at some point this season with or without an injury. They're just taking their time on it, and it's fine. The good news for Jalen Wright is, as mentioned in the injury portion of the show, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert both popped up on the injury report this week. So it's going to happen at some point. Get Jalen Wright while you can. This is more of a stash, but still get him on your team. Next, we have Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving got a lot of volume. And I do want to say this. Don't pay up for Bucky Irving. Do not pay up for Bucky Irving, but get him on your roster. I want to see him do it again. I understand in this game he had 9 carries for 62 yards and also found himself having 2 catches for 14 yards and had basically the amount of usage as Rachaad White in this game. But also, the Buccaneers kind of ran away with this game. They really, really did. They were winning very quickly, and so I could see why they decided to see what Bucky Irving had. So, you can spend a little bit normal amount on Bucky Irving, but I'm seeing people try to trade a second for him. Just don't do that. Don't give up 100% of your fab. He's not that good of a pickup, but he is still a good one. I just want to, kind of pump the brakes a little bit on the Bucky Irving hype. I think that game script did play into how much opportunity he got. He's obviously still going to get some opportunity and did look good, but I just want to exercise a little bit of caution here. I'd like to see him do it again in a bit more, of a normal game script for the team. I think it's very likely he was just thrown out there because of how far ahead they got and everything. So we'll see. We'll see. You obviously still want him, but just don't go too crazy on your bids. Next, we've got Ray Davis. Ray Davis is available in 81% of leagues. He had 3 carries and a reception in this game, so it doesn't seem great, but that's pretty solid for week 1 for a rookie. James Cook, we saw last year, never really got all the usage in Buffalo, and they usually utilized a second running back pretty frequently. So I think Ray Davis, this is just the beginning. You want to get Ray Davis while you can, because if anything happens to James Cook, Ray Davis is going to be a stud. Shout out Tyler Knabley. This is one of his rookie guys. Awesome production in the SEC last season. Led all running backs in college in receiving touchdowns. Had a pretty nice snag in this game. Again, only 4 touches, but he's a rookie. So I could see him getting, just kind of worked in more and more and more as the season goes along. And if an injury happens, he's got massive, massive upside. Get yourself some Ray Davis on your squad. This is an easy pickup. You probably barely even have to bid for him because he was so quiet, but you want him bad. Next, Xavier Legette. Only owned in 16% of leagues, available in 84 of them. And he had 7 targets in this game. That's a lot of targets for week 1 for a rookie. And again, he didn't impress me too much at the Senior Bowl and didn't even really impress much in the box score. Off of those 7 targets, he only brought in 4 of them for 35 yards. And, of course, this Panthers team looks awful. So I'm not saying bid up a lot for Xavier Legette, but say you've got Bryce Young. You want to find a stack for him. You could probably roster Xavier Legette. And towards the end of the season, this might actually blossom into a really decent connection. Again, they spent their first draft pick in this year's draft on Xavier Legette. They wanted him pretty bad. And he looked decent enough. I mean, to get 7 targets, that's pretty damn good as a rookie. And it should only go up from here. for the entire Panthers offense, but especially for him as well, given he's a rookie and he already had this kind of usage and opportunity in his first week. If you need a wide receiver, get some Leggett on your team. Another wide receiver only owned in 10% of Yahoo leagues is Wan'Dale Robinson. Wan'Dale Robinson is available in 90% of leagues and shouldn't be. He had 12 targets, guys. And yes, all low ADOT. 6 receptions for 44 yards, also had a carry. But we like low ADOT for Zay Flowers. Why not low ADOT for Wan'Dale Robinson? And this is a Giants team that's going to be awful. We just saw it. So they're always going to be playing from behind. So they're always going to be chucking it to Wan'Dale Robinson in the underneath. Get Wan'Dale Robinson in your PPR leagues. I mean, he had 11 points. 11 points in this game without a touchdown. 12 targets. That's awesome. Full PPR, Wan'Dale Robinson. This is the type of usage that we saw from him as a rookie. We didn't see it much last year, but as a rookie, I mean, like, he was getting targeted and targeted and targeted and targeted. So to see it again already in week 1 is pretty good news. I mean, I'm sure he's not going to get 12 targets all the time. That's not what I'm trying to say. Malik Neighbors is, of course, going to start to get utilized heavily, but Wan'Dale Robinson seems to be a big part of this game plan, and his skill set seems to be a big part of what they want to do in the offense. So look for him to continue to be fed. We'll see what it means in terms of yards and touchdowns and everything throughout the course of the season. But in PPR leagues, he's going to have a pretty decent floor. Moving on to his teammate, Tyrone Tracy, rostered in 8% of Yahoo leagues. Again, this is another running back that wasn't utilized a ton. He only had 2 carries and a reception, but he did have 3 targets, which is pretty cool to see. And given he actually didn't participate much throughout the offseason, to see him already earn this spot, like actually get some snaps in week 1 as a rookie, is excellent news. Again, this is only the beginning. Now, do you really want a piece of this Giants offense? I mean, not really, but he's a handcuff plus in this offense. He's a wide receiver turned running back, so he's really good at catching the ball. And Devin Singletary, while he is able to hold people off, coaches like him, he is a little bit older. He has had a ton of volume in his career. He also isn't necessarily explosive. He's just good. So I could see Tyrone Tracy start to get some more usage throughout the course of the season. So you want to go ahead and stash him in your leagues where you can. Next, we've got Luke McCaffrey. Luke McCaffrey is only rostered in 7% of leagues. He only had 3 targets, brought in all 3 for 18 yards, and actually was tackled on the 1, almost had a touchdown. That's excellent news again. For your first week as a rookie, to even see the field is good news. And especially in Luke McCaffrey's case, they traded a wide receiver away because they like what they saw in him, right? Like, he made the starting roster. He was out there, and Jaden Daniels and him have been establishing a connection. If you remember the reports from the offseason, they were coming into the building at 5 a.m. every day to work on the playbook and watch film together. That's only going to grow from here. He's got the McCaffrey bloodline. Very, very good at the Senior Bowl as well. He's got some explosiveness and some strength in him. I think that this is only the beginning. If you can get Luke McCaffrey, if that makes sense for your league, throw him on your roster, pick him up. Moving from Luke McCaffrey, we will now go to another wide receiver rostered in 7% of leagues, and that's Quentin Johnston. Now, Quentin Johnston is available in 93% of leagues for good reason, but sneakily, I didn't even notice this. DJ Chark is on IR. I didn't even know this. And so I was wondering, I knew he had the injury, but I didn't see he was put on IR. I knew DJ Chark was going to miss this week, but I didn't see the IR news. And anyway, so Quentin Johnston was utilized, and he didn't do great. He had 5 targets, brought in 3 of them for 38 yards. But again, all offseason, I've just been saying, like, Quentin Johnston seems to me a player that, yes, he's a bust at his first-round draft capital. I'm not trying to argue at that, but I don't think the Chargers are going to give up on him, and I think they're still going to scheme him some touches, right? Like, he is still really good at yak, right? Like, taking a screen, right? He did it against Jim Harbaugh in college when he was at TCU, and Jim Harbaugh was the Michigan coach. He had a 70-yard screen touchdown, right? So I could see where Jim Harbaugh is able to utilize him, and he's still on this Chargers offense. He's still got Justin Herbert throwing him the ball. It could trend up from here. Again, I'm not like, you're never probably going to start Quentin Johnston, but to me, after this game with 5 targets, bringing in 3 of them for 38 yards, being as good as he is after the catch, and now actually having a competent head coach, not trying to kind of shoehorn him into a Mike Williams role, I think that he'll be fine. And that's fine. I'm not trying to say he's going to be awesome or amazing or great even. You're probably never going to start him. But if he's available in your league and he shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Then go ahead and pick him up, just see what happens. He could at some point house one of those screens and get his confidence back. And so we'll see. We'll see. Not like too excited about it, but I think he did enough to warrant a pickup. And another wide receiver that is rostered in 7% of leagues, that's a lucky number for wide receivers, is Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson also needs to be picked up in light of the Puka Nacua news. In this game, he had 7 targets for 4 receptions and 42 yards. He is the deep threat on this offense. Getting 4 targets for 42 yards, 7 targets, bringing 4 of them for 42 yards. Not too shabby. This seems like a player you'll actually be able to start in some of these deeper leagues, especially if, you need to. He'll be utilized, right? I mean, it's obviously going to run through Cooper Kupp and another player we'll talk about in a bit on top of the running game. But Demarcus Robinson is going to get enough volume for sure over the course of Puka Nacua's absence to where, if you need someone to kind of throw in there, you can do it with Demarcus Robinson. Next, we have Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby is only owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues, but at 12 carries for 73 yards, basically pushing what Travis Etienne was able to do in this game. Tank Bigsby finishes the day looking like, like he's splitting the backfield with Travis Etienne. That's excellent news for people who drafted Tank Bigsby. Terrible news for people who drafted Travis Etienne. The coaches had talked about it all offseason. A lot of us, myself included, didn't really want to believe it. It seemed like they just wanted to hype up Tank Bigsby. But it's true. It's founded now. We know it. So get Tank Bigsby on your team if he's available, especially if you have Travis Etienne. Next, this is the Ram I really want. As Around the First says, Colby Parkinson 2. Colby Parkinson is available in 94% of leagues, had 5 targets, brought in 4 of them for 47 yards in this game. He looked good. He looked like Colby Parkinson. We talked about him last year. For some reason, he's just one of those players that makes chunk plays. He's got a clutch factor within him. He just does. And out with Puka Nacua out, I could see him being heavily featured, right? Just because of the space in the field that he operates in. I think these 5 targets will go up to 8 or 9 over the next few weeks. To be completely honest with you, they paid Colby Parkinson the bag. They snapped him off of the Seahawks, a division rival. They clearly liked what they had seen from him. And they want him. They want him back. My favorite quote from last year is, Colby Parkinson is going to happen. I don't care if it's 2025. I just think that Colby Parkinson is going to happen. It's like you just watch him play, and he looks like a stud. He just does. Although he cut his hair. I don't know if you guys saw. He cut his hair, so he kind of lost some aura. I'm not going to lie, but he looked good enough. Sometimes the shaved head narrative, Kenneth Walker did, and he looked good, so maybe it's fine. But he did lose some aura. It was kind of the long hair that was really cool. To see that gone was kind of disappointing. But hey, big game, and I bet he's going to be leaned on pretty decently in Puka Nacua's absence, so get him on your squad if you need a tight end. Next, we've got Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch is only owned in 5% of leagues. In this game, he had 8 targets, brought in 6 of them for 47 yards. He also had a carry for 4 yards. Kyler Murray was looking his way early and often, okay? All the time, Greg Dortch was like his first read or at least his safety net, and that's probably not going to change. Greg Dortch is just a baller. Dortch the Torch is inevitable. If he's available, you definitely need to go ahead and pick him up, especially in PPR leagues. He'll probably have a decent floor going forward. Next, we have Alexander Mattison at 5% rostership on Yahoo. He has 9 touches in this game for 62 yards and a touchdown, has 6 targets, so he's actually catching passes as well. And frankly, Zamir White didn't look that good. And now Antonio Pierce has come out and saying that they're going to ride the hot hand. It seems that this is going to continue to be a split, and Alexander Mattison has worked himself into a even bigger share of the backfield. 5 carries, 4 receptions. Zamir White had 13 carries and 2 receptions, so we could see that probably getting closer to 50-50. Now, you're probably not going to want to start Alexander Mattison. You're also probably not going to want to start Zamir White anymore for the foreseeable future. But it's looking like he's going to be utilized, and if an injury happens, then you could definitely start him. But as GDLT says, I'll just go ahead. I'll wait to officially say it, but Dylan Lobb's season is definitely coming soon. We'll talk about stashes later. We haven't got quite to the stashes yet. Now we've got Jalen McMillan at 5% ownership. Jalen McMillan is available in 95% of Yahoo leagues, scored a touchdown in his first start, and we know he's out there starting. He had 3 targets, was out there in 3 wide receiver sets, scored a touchdown. this is only the beginning. Get him on your squad. Jalen McMillan, if he's available. The other wide receivers on the team are awesome. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are awesome. That opens the field for McMillan. And then also Godwin and Evans are old and you know, they have the injury concerns, especially Godwin. So you want McMillan while you can get him. And I'm surprised. He had so much hype. I'm honestly surprised he's only has 5% rostership. Next, we have Justice Hill, who's rostered in 4% of leagues. He looks like he's going to be Tyjae Spears, essentially. Now, this was kind of game script. I mean, the Ravens were playing from behind the whole game, and it's clear that they don't want to use Derrick Henry as a pass catcher, so Justice Hill was just out there. I am very curious to see what he looks like in a different game script, but either way, it seems that he's going to be a big part of this offense, especially as a pass-catching running back. So you want to get Justice Hill on your team. He had 6 receptions off of 8 targets in this game and 52 receiving yards. It's seeming that he's going to be splitting the backfield with Derrick Henry, specifically as a pass catcher as well. So he's got some juice. Going to be pretty solid for PPR leagues, especially. I see it. Yes, I would definitely trade Nick Chubb for Brian Thomas Jr. That's an awesome trade, especially if you need wide receiver help, like you said. Next, Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is available in 3%, available in 97% of leagues, is only rostered in 3% of leagues. But as we talked about, when this signing happened, Tyler Boyd remains with his coach. Callahan was his offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, comes to Tennessee now, and we saw Tennessee pass. Now, Will Levis didn't look that great, to be completely honest with you. The reason they lost is Will Levis, but Tyler Boyd had 5 targets, brought in 3 of them, had 18 yards, just fine. But, he has that floor, right? He's going to be used, and he's going to have some spike weeks like Tyler Boyd has his entire career, right? Like, he just always produces. So if he's available, he's a decent option, especially with DeAndre Hopkins' injury, Calvin Ridley's injury concerns as well. With how often they pass the ball, you want wide receivers in this offense. They're only going to get better. Get Tyler Boyd while you can. Next, we've got Alan Lazard, the Lizard King. What did we say all offseason? Why are we overlooking Alan Lazard? We talked about it a million times. I said, I just can't press the button on Garrett Wilson. I just can't do it. Alan Lazard's there. It's just like, why wouldn't Aaron Rodgers look Alan Lazard's way? Why? And we saw it. Now, I will say, box score, misleading to a certain point, right? Like, Alan Lazard, a lot of usage came in garbage time. When the game was over, they had 1 drive at the end with Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod Taylor just kept finding Alan Lazard. So that's where the second touchdown and 3 receptions came from. But still, he scored a touchdown and had a few receptions with Aaron Rodgers as well. He had 9 targets in this game. Clearly the wide receiver too, and he looked good. He looked good. I'm not going to lie. He made some clutch catches. He was running routes. He was getting open. Alan Lazard looked like Alan Lazard. Sorry, Lazard. Oops. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why? I was surprised. Again, I was able to pick him up in a pretty damn deep league this week, and I started him. I won my matchup because of Alan Lazard. Can you believe that? That's why we love fantasy football. Anyway, if he is available, which he should be, he's a big waiver wire ad. He's gonna be big this season. Aaron Rodgers is gonna continue to look his way. He is. He just is. So yeah. Alan Lazard. Next, we have 2 Rams receivers, only rostered in 1% of leagues, both available in 99%. Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson had 7 targets, brought in 5 of them for 79 yards. And looked good, right? I am curious though. I don't know, I don't know. Jordan Whittington, he got all this hype, right? Who is also the other wide receiver I recommend picking up because of that hype. I don't think that Jordan Whittington is just going to completely fade away, right? I think that Jordan Whittington is probably going to be utilized next week, right? He didn't have any points this week, no fantasy points. He did score a touchdown though, and that's why box scores are misleading. Jordan Whittington scored a touchdown, but it was called back because of a penalty. So with that knowledge, I still think that Jordan Whittington is going to be utilized. And he made some noise this preseason, was awesome this preseason. So I think that Jordan Whittington is being a little overlooked because of Tyler Johnson. But Tyler Johnson got all the usage, and I think that has to mean something. So I would say definitely take a flyer on both, but don't start Tyler Johnson yet. I want to see it happen again because I do think that Jordan Whittington is going to be thrown out there more as well. But you want to get them both, Tyler Johnson and Jordan Whittington, on your team. So those are 24 pickups for you guys. Now, I have 7 stashes. 7 stashes for you guys. These are players that you need to go ahead and pick up before they become hot waiver wire ads, and we'll just kind of rapid fire these. I've got 4 quarterbacks for your Superflex leagues. If any of these quarterbacks are available in your Superflex leagues, you need to roster them. And none of these are going to be injury takes, really. Michael Penix Jr., Kirk Cousins looked pretty damn bad and did not look healthy either. So I think that there is even more higher of a potential this season that we see Michael Penix. I already expected to see him at some point, just because I just didn't trust Kirk Cousins to stay healthy, and I just don't trust the Falcons, right? Like a pessimistic kind of led me to believe Michael Penix would be starting at some point. But now we kind of see why that Kirk Cousins just isn't right. He's just not right. And then Jameis Winston. Again, we talked about him, right? We talked about him at the top of the show with the Deshaun Watson talk. When/if Deshaun Watson gets benched, it'll be Jameis Winston season, and he's awesome for fantasy football. So you want him. You want him on your team. Jameis Winston in Superflex. Drew Lock, as we talked about. Daniel Jones, he has an injury clause in his contract. If he gets injured and is not able to pass a physical next season, he will get his entire contract fully guaranteed by the New York Giants. They want to avoid that. Also, they brought in Drew Lock. Also, Daniel Jones looked terrible. So he's going to get benched. He just is. Even if he looked good, he was going to get benched, right? So you got to get Drew Lock and maybe even Tommy DeVito, but I think Drew Lock would get the first crack, and I think he would be fine. And then next, Sam Howell. Again, this is a new coaching staff in Seattle. And so they traded for Sam Howell for a reason. Now, it's going to take, Geno Smith to be kind of bad, but we saw him look, like average Geno Smith this week. And so I think that it's really only a matter of time before he gets benched, because I don't think that the Seahawks are really playoff competing this year. And I do think that at some point they're going to want to see what they have in Sam Howell to see if they really need to get a quarterback in the draft or not, because Sam Howell had almost 4,000 passing yards last season. So if they think they can develop him, which is very possible, they would probably, give him a chance, and I don't think, I think if Geno Smith continues to look average and they continue to pile up the losses, they'll just pull the plug. Even if Geno Smith is just fine, because again, this is a new regime. I assume that they want to see what they have in Sam Howell. I think they traded for him for a reason. So if you can get him on your Superflex rosters, get him. Now, here you go, Around the Fur. Welcome to Wake and Take, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before, so welcome in, man. We do this every morning, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, and Dylan Lobb has been someone we have been tracking. Dylan Lobb, he went to, I believe it was Central Michigan or something like that. One of those very, very small schools. And he was the entire offense, especially as a pass-catching running back. He had a game with over 200 receiving yards as a running back, had 30 touches in the game. He's heavily been relied upon. He made a lot of noise during rookie mini camps as well, and he did make the start of the active roster for the Raiders. So he's going to, at some point, be worked in. I think he's more of a pass catcher. I think he'll end up just being the third down running back, just a pass catching running back, because Zamir White and Alexander Madison aren't juice pass catchers. They don't have a ton of explosiveness after the catch. They can do it. They have hands, but they're not the receiver that Dylan Lobb is. He's a really good route runner, really good after the catch as well. Just a good pass catching running back. And so I do think at some point, with or without an injury, they're going to try to get Dylan Lobb involved, given his skill set. So you do want to go ahead and stash him before that happens. And then Marshawn Lloyd misses this week with a hamstring injury, probably going to continue to miss time. But it's only a matter of time with Josh Jacobs. He's going to handle so much volume that they're going to either have to spell him and it'll be Marshawn Lloyd, or he'll get hurt and it'll be Marshawn Lloyd. But either way, you want to make sure you're rostering Marshawn Lloyd while you still can. If he's available, get him, because he's got insane explosiveness. He was clearly the best running back at the Senior Bowl. It was not close. He's awesome, very, very athletic, The dude averaged over 17 yards a catch last year in college as a running back. Again, very, very explosive, awesome athleticism, seems to have some health concerns, but for now, because of those health concerns, he's available. Get him and stash him. Then we have Kamani Vidal. Again, this is a running back that it was going to take some time, but at some point, he's going to be the bell cow in Los Angeles. I think we can all agree that J.K. Dobbins is not going to, last the whole season. And then also, Gus Edwards didn't look good, but I think we can also agree that he will not last the full season. So at some point, Kamani Vidal is going to get some action and look good. This is the guy that led all college football running backs in rush yards last season. He's got true workhorse potential. He didn't have any injuries in college, played every single game in college, was able to handle massive workloads, got really good BMI, really good explosiveness, a good runner, very, very good runner. And I think that he's going to fit perfectly in this Chargers offense. And when he gets leaned upon, he's going to be awesome for fantasy. So you need to get Kamani Vidal on your teams while you still can. And then, guys, did you think that we would go a show without mentioning Ryan Flournoy? You got to stash Ryan Flournoy, guys. Again, a healthy scratch in this week, of course, given where he is on this depth chart. But it's only a matter of time. He's going to be on there active for game day at some point, whether it be a Brandon Cooks injury, a Kevontae Turpin injury, a Jalen Brooks injury, a Jalen Tolbert injury, or just the fact that Ryan Flournoy is very good at football and he continues to climb up the depth chart in practice. Either way, by the end of the season, Ryan Flournoy is going to be the wide receiver 3 for the Dallas Cowboys, worst case, by the end of the year. And that's without a Brandon Cooks injury. With a Brandon Cooks injury, he'll probably end up being the wide receiver 2. We saw it this week. There was no involvement really from Tolbert, Brooks, or even Turpin, really. Turpin, of course, scored, but that was on something else, Ryan Flournoy. It's going to happen. You'll want him. Get him on your team while you can. Ryan says, I'm sleeping on Emmanuel Wilson. That's fair. I mean, you can get him too. Marshawn Lloyd is going to be the backup when he's back. He is. And Emmanuel Wilson doesn't have much juice. So, yeah. Mark, yes, I am right. I was fading Garrett Wilson. And yeah, it wasn't because of Alan Lazard. It was because I liked the other receivers and running backs, for that matter, in his range. I didn't like Garrett Wilson's ADP at all. I didn't. Especially with Aaron Rodgers back there. Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, coming off an Achilles tear. Why would you trust that? Why would you also trust that when he's got a perfectly awesome safety net and Breece Hall behind him, when Tyler Conklin's gotten volume and productive throughout his career, and his friend from Green Bay followed him, Alan Lazard? It wasn't just Alan Lazard, certainly played into my reasoning. I'm sure Garrett Wilson's going to have a good season, but just that, a very good season. And so I would rather, in this range, I was just taking Saquon Barkley. I was taking Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see how that might end up burning me, right? I was taking AJ Brown. I was taking Jahmyr Gibbs. Really, I didn't draft Garrett Wilson. I just every time I was staring him in the face, I was like, I didn't like all the things that kind of stacked up against him at his cost. I still think he's going to be awesome. I don't know. I think our expectations are too high for him. He's not Devontae Adams. Okay. I know we want him to be. He's not Devontae Adams. So anyway, that is today's show. I don't think I see any questions. I think I kind of answered them throughout the show, but let me just double check. Do I trade Rachaad White for Brandon Ayuk and PPR? If you need wide receiver help, I guess, but I don't know, man. I mean, Rachaad White is awesome in PPR. And again, but this is also probably one of your only opportunity to sell high on him. With Bucky Irving getting involved that much, I mean, it's kind of tough. So, I mean, if you're looking for an off-ramp, I mean, this is an acceptable one. And I'm not even a Brandon Ayuk guy. But I mean, he'll get better over the course of the season. It made sense he would, falter in week 1. He hasn't been there all off season. So I do think that Brandon Ayuk will be good, and probably, so if you need wide receiver help, I think you can go ahead and do it. I'm gonna go with this question here. Does Jordan Mason still suck? I never said Jordan Mason sucked. This was a season-long take. I said I don't want the handcuff running back for week 1. Less so, I don't want the 49ers backup running back specifically season-long, because as we saw Deebo Samuel gets opportunities. Now, unfortunately, where I went wrong is I thought that they would also work in another running back, but I think they still will in normal circumstances. Because this was week 1, it makes sense that they're not going to utilize Isaac Guerrero. Jordan Mason knows the system. But what we've seen from the San Francisco 49ers backfield when Christian McCaffrey is out, minus last week, is a committee. JaMychal Hasty, Jordan Mason, Matt Breida, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, all getting worked in. And so it's just, yes, Jordan Mason came in clutch in this game, but it's just like Joshua Kelly last year, right? Like everyone rushing to pick up Joshua Kelly, and then he never gets started again the rest of season. Like, it's just, it's week 1, right? Like, you didn't really, like, the only people who started Jordan Mason probably were people who had Christian McCaffrey. And that's fine. Like, you want Jordan Mason if you have Christian McCaffrey. But it's just, to me, I don't want the first handcuff, like the one that everyone's hyping up right now. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Yes, I did say drafting him was stupid. I still believe that. I still do. I am going to double down on this. I don't think he's going to come in handy in the way that handcuffs should. You draft handcuffs for the second half of the season. You want handcuffs on your team when the injuries start to pile up. And Jordan Mason, it's seeming, and I'm sure it's going to continue this way, all of his production is going to come the first few weeks of the season when you don't even really need it. He's going to be good. Sure, whatever. But he's still going to end up being a roster clogger by the end of the year. That was my take. Again, I did assume and expect him to do well when he's out there. I didn't expect him to do this well. I expected more like 10 to 15, not 20 points. But hey, I'll accept the wrong there. But like I said, this was always a season-long take. I want handcuffs that'll help me later, right, when I need them. I don't need Jordan Mason right now. Everyone's still healthy. It's only the first week of the season. Now, if you had Christian McCaffrey, of course you wanted Jordan Mason. That's the process there. I think more so I'm more upset because I'm not a other people's handcuffs guy unless they've got true bell cow upside like Kamani Vidal, for example, like I mentioned. I really want Kamani Vidal regardless if I have any Chargers because I think that he's going to be awesome when he gets his opportunity. Jameson Williams or Alan Lazard? J-Mo, man. Get J-Mo. He's going to be awesome. Yeah. Yeah, see, this is like Lester, I get it. You'd rather have Jordan Mason over Marshawn Lloyd. I'm sure a lot of people would. I wouldn't. I would rather have Marshawn Lloyd. I can throw in my IR right now, so I have an extra roster spot. And inevitably, even without a Josh Jacobs injury, he's still going to get some opportunity as a pass catcher. Like, he's going to be in there. He's a handcuff plus to me. And Jordan Mason might get some opportunity, but you're not going to start him. Either way, I'm excited to see how it plays out. This might end up being one of my worst takes of the season, but if my worst take is that I was out on a backup running back, oh well, at the end of the day, oh well, at least I got J-Mo and Kyle Pitts to hang my hat on, and hopefully Ryan Flournoy. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. This is another fun episode of Wake and Take. Make sure you stay tuned as Waiver Wired is going to go live at some point. It might already be live. I don't know. Theo Greminger is doing some Waiver Wired in lieu of the Podfather, so make sure you check that out for some more Waiver Wire advice. I hope all the players that you bid on go to your team, and I hope you continue to find fantasy football success. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern on the Player Profiler YouTube network. Have a good day or have a terrific Tuesday and a wonderful rest of your week. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.